Hi everyone, I'm Talia and I'm a designer on the Editor X design team. In this session, I'll show you step by step how to create a beautiful animated grid from my template. Tanis will be joining me on chat to answer your questions. Let me share my screen. Okay. This template was created for a fitness studio with a clean, bold design, but could be easily changed and personalized to suit other sites. First, let's look at the template. In the first fold, I've created a large menu using buttons, including one linked to a bookings page. Following is an informative fold. Next up are the sections that hold the animated grid. These are the ones I will show you how to build. Using grid and sticky scroll. 1, 2, 3, and all of these will create a special flow. These folds are followed up by more sections, our team, our studio, which is also sticky, and the site's footer holding studio information and a contact form. Okay, I can show you the breakpoints as well. This one is for tablet breakpoint. And next up is the mobile. This is the mobile. Okay. So ready? Let's begin. I'm going to start right under our classes. Add a section with the Add Section button and choose Grid. CSS Grid is a two-dimensional layout that lets you arrange content in columns and rows. You can apply a grid to any section or container and adjust its dimensions as you need. My grid consists of 4 columns by 4 rows, so I'll use the custom option. I'm going to add in my numbers 4 by 4 and apply. Next, I'll adjust my grid and choose Edit Grid. To create my animated grid, I used 3 columns, same size, and the first column is double in size. It's not?
It looks fine to me.
What? Sorry for that. Okay, let's continue. So I'm going to adjust my grid. And I've used 3 columns which are on the same size, and the first column is double in size of the others. The FR unit is a fractional unit, meaning it's one part of the available space. So 2FR, I just click on the top and change it to 2. It's going to be double in size of the other 3. Okay, and for my cells height, I'm going to use the VW measurement, which means viewport width. This way my grid cells will stay square and keep their proportions even when the viewport is changed. Let me explain how to calculate. I have 5 fractional units, 2 FR, 3, 4, 5. If I divide the whole by 5, it's going to be 20 VW each. So I'm just going to click on my cell and type in 20 VW and enter. And again, I can click 20 VW. I can select it and copy to use it for the other ones. And just paste. And the top one, paste. Okay, now my grid is ready. I can click done and add my image. To add an image, I'll open the add panel and scroll down to media. And here I have my site files, and I'm going to use this image. I'm going to place it over the cells I want to stretch it over. I can use the handles and just use stretch. Let's look at the template again. This is the section I'm building. Okay. So now I'll add my containers to hold my elements. Okay. Containers can be added from the quick add menu here, or from layout tools, where you have a variety of designs. So I'm going to use this one, and I'm just going to drag it and attach it to my section. And now I can change. I'm going to open my inspector and click on design and change the color to the color I want from my site files. And check if there's a border. Border, 0 pixels. Okay, so now I can just go ahead and duplicate the containers by using Command D and placing them over the right cells. So I'm going to do this again, and my third container is going to be spanning over 3 grid cells. And I love shortcuts, so I'm going to just select with Shift both containers, and I can duplicate them together and move them down. And again, duplicate, move them down here, and let's look at the grid. Okay, so I'm just going to move them a little bit further up and duplicate again. And okay, so in my section, I have the paragraph spanning over 2 cells. So I'm going to move this container over here. And using the handles, I'm going to stretch this one over here. And now I'm just going to stretch all of my containers like this. And this one as well. And now I'll go about and add my elements. So I'm going to add this large number. I'm going to go to the add panel, text, and drag the title over to this container where I want my number. I'm going to double click on it and just type in 01, center align it. And I'm going to give it a larger percent so it won't break in other breakpoints, and center it. Okay, now I want it to be with this font using heading 2. I'm going to click on it, and I want it to scale. So in each breakpoint, it's going to scale with the viewport width. So on the left is the smallest text size, and on the right is the biggest. So now it's the size I want. I'm going to dock it to the top of the container and use a 14% figure. And I also wanted to have a margin of 14% from the bottom of my container. Okay, let's go ahead and add more elements. So you can add elements for pre-saved designs in design assets. And I've added previously my title. I'm going to just drag it. Again, see this label, attach the container. So I'm going to drop it over here. And I want it to be docked to the left of my container. Let's give it a 10% margin. And I want it to be in the center, so I'll align it. You see now I have 0 margins. And next up, I'll add my paragraph from my assets. just going to drag it to the container. See, attach the container again. Dock it to the left. And this time I'm going to give it a 5% margin since it's spanning over 2 cells. And again, I don't want margin, I want it to be in the center. Okay. So now I'm going to give it the size in percent because I want it to be fluid, meaning it's going to change with the viewport width. And this one as well, I'm going to give it a percent of 82, the same. Let's go back to the template and see what else is going on. I have a stack here and my container is black. And here I have a vector shape. So this container, I'm going to color it black. I'm going to click on it, use my design, go down to the black color for my site colors, and go to my add panel again and choose my stack. Drag it, attach it to the container. Okay, give it a percent of 82 again, and dock it to the left using 10% and no other margin, so it will be in the middle. Okay, and now for my vector shape, I'm going to go to the add panel and add decorative shape, more basic shapes. And I'm going to choose this triangle, add it to the page. And now I'm going to make sure it's attached to this container. Align it to the left and to the bottom. And give it a percent of 100% because I want it to be on the whole container. And also I'm going to give it 100% height. And I'm just going to color it, the right color, this gray. Okay, and in this cell, I have my button. So I've saved it up again in design assets. I'm just going to drag it, attach it to the cell. And buttons, you can also give a percentage. So they will be fluid, 100% in width, and also 100% in height. And I'm going to center it in my container and no docking. Okay, so I think I have everything. Let's preview. Okay, so this is my section. And as you can see, I don't have grid lines. And I'm going to add them using grid gaps. Okay, so what you do is select any container and using the breadcrumbs, select the section and adjust grid, edit grid. And then you see in the bottom, you have gaps. I'm going to use 1 pixel because I want really thin border and click done. Now I have a border, but I need to color the background of my section. So I'm going to go to design and choose this gray color. And let's preview. Great. Now I have my grid lines, but grid gaps only work inside the section. So to add gaps on the top of the bottom of the section, I'm going to use section padding. Let's select the section again. Go to padding on the inspector panel. And you can lock the padding right here. That means that if you type in 1 pixel, it's going to be 1 pixel for the whole section. Okay, so let's preview the section now. And now you see I have the padding and the grid gaps, but nothing special is happening. So let's look at our template. And here my section goes to the top, my image sticks to the top, and my number as well, following it. So let's do that. I'm going to select I'm going to edit my site, select my image, and go to scroll in my inspector panel and choose scroll effect. I'm going to choose sticky. And in the top offset, I'm going to keep it at 0 pixels because I want it to stick to the top of my section. And for my big number, I'm going to do the same. But this time I'm going to use top offset of where it is now, 14%. And enter. And now let's look at our section. Yeah, and now it works. You see, my grid is animated, it's rolling, and it's moving on when the section is out of the viewport. Okay, now for the fun part, breakpoints. Okay, let's look at our breakpoints over here. So breakpoints, lower breakpoints are, as hinted, lower in size. So I chose to hide some containers and move things around. The amazing thing is that it doesn't affect your desktop breakpoints. Okay, so let's do it in our page. Okay. I'm going to use the handles to adjust the size. Okay, and now you see we move to the next breakpoint. Okay. So I'm going to choose this container and right-click on it, and choose Don't Display. And let's look at the template, and I have this one. So I'm going to click on this one as well and choose Don't Display. Okay, and now I'm going to adjust my grid. Edit grid. Okay, I still want my image to be double the size of the two columns. So I'm just going to click on the 1FR and change it to 0.5 FR. So it's going to be half the size. And I'm going to have two columns together are going to be 1FR. And so for my cell's height, I'm going to change it. Remember, we did the whole divided by 4 fractions now. So it's going to be 25 viewport width. Be a bit bigger. So I'm just going to click on it. This one as well. Okay, so ready, and now let's go about and move things around. So adjusting the grid area, I can do it manually. Like I can tell it where an element is positioned within the grid by inputting the grid area in the inspector panel. So I'm going to go to grid area, and you see my big number is now starting at 4 column till the end, 5, and from the first row to the 4th. So now I want it to be in this cell, which is 2 cells. So I'm just gonna say 3rd, 3 to 5, and my row is gonna be 1 to 2. Okay, so now it's in the right place. And I don't want it to be sticky anymore because it's not moving, only my image is gonna have the scroll effect in this breakpoint. So I'm just gonna change it back to none and center it. Okay, so now I don't have any margins. For my paragraph, I want it to span over these two. So I'm gonna just add column 2 to 5. And this container as well, 3 to 5. And for my button, I'm gonna use 3 to 5 as well. And that's it. Let's look at the preview. And my tablet breakpoint is ready. Let's use the handles to go to the mobile. Okay, So let's look at the templates. In mobile, what we have is my image on the top. And then we now have 2 columns, and the paragraph is spanning over both, and then the stack and the button. So I'm going to hide again a few containers. Okay, let's hide this one. Click on it, don't display. Okay. And now let's adjust the grid, edit grid. And I'm just going to click on the FR and delete this column. And again, delete this column. And now I have 2 columns, each 2 FR, but it's 2 parts. So I'm going to change my cell's height. Let me see. Just want to check that my section doesn't have, yeah, it has a minimum height. Okay, when you're adding grid to the whole section, you want the grid to control your section. So I'm going to change my height to none. Minimum height, I want my grid to control it. So going back to my breakpoint. Okay, I'm going to see, okay, no min height. All right, so let's fix things around. I'm going to drag the handles and move my image over here. I'm going to take my title and drag it over here, below it. And let's go from the bottom. Okay, I'm going to hide my vector shape. Use don't display. And this as well. I'm going to display it. Okay. So I'm going to drag my stack over here. And now I'm going to adjust my grid because my cell's height, I didn't change them, into 50 viewport width. Okay, 50. And again, 50. And the top one as well. 50 viewport width. Okay, done. And let's go back to changing things around. My button should have 100%. Okay, and no docking. And my stack as well. I'm going to just stretch it. And my paragraph. I can use the handles and then stretch it over these 2. Okay, let's look at the template again. Okay, I'm going to stretch this one and my number. I'm going to grab it and move it over here and stretch it. And my image, dragging the handles, stretching. Okay, so since my image is spanning over 2 grid parts, I want it to be square. So I'm going to go back to my adjusting my grid and changing my viewport width to 100. This way, it's going to be a square. Let's see. Okay, so now my section is ready. Let's use the handles and look at it. How fluid. Great. And tablet and mobile as well. Okay. Let's look at the template again. Let's go back to desktop. Okay. Now I would like to show you another section, how to build it. But since the second one is very similar to the first one, I'm going to show you the third one instead. Okay. See this part? going under. Okay. Let's do it a bit differently this time. I can build it from scratch, but I want to show you how to do it faster using the duplicate section. Okay. I can open the layers panel and select my section. Go to these three dots, more actions, and just use duplicate. Okay, and now I have another section below mine. You can click on the section and change the name, like so. And also, I want to check that I don't have the minimum height. So I'm going to change it to none. Okay. And let's do the easy stuff first. I'm going to click on the text and just type in 03. And I'm going to change my image. Click on the image, change image. And I'm going to choose this image for this section and update. Let's look at what else is happening here. I have a different text here. I'm just going to copy it. And my number is going to span over the whole of the section. So I'm going to have a bigger container. And things are a bit different there. So let's do it. I'm going to click on the text and just paste. And I'm going to change my text on my stack. What's the name again? Jillian Pelter. So I'm just going to type it in. Pelter. Okay. And I'm going to move my button. Move my container using grid area again from this cell to the last one. So I'm going to use column 4 to 5. Okay. And I'm going, let's look at it again. Okay. So my button is going to move to the left. So it's going to be in 3 to 4. And I'm going to just sorry. I'm going to just delete this container because I don't need it anymore for this section. And I'm going to move my vector shape, choosing from breadcrumbs. And it's going to go here, which is column 3 to 4 and row 3 to 4 as well. 3 to 4. Just clicking it in. Okay, and my text here is going to go from row 1 to 5. Okay. Let's look at it again, my template. Okay. So there's one container here. The one I deleted. So I'm just going to add another container using the add panel, layout tools, add my container again, and I'm going to change its color to a light gray and stretch it over here. Okay, so let's preview. Let's start from the top. And see that the stack is over the number, so it's creating a special flow here. Okay, let's go to the other breakpoints. Stretch the handles. Okay. So, in my tablet breakpoints, we're in section 3. Okay. So again, I'm going to move things around. Oh, I see my vector. I forgot to rotate it. So I'm going to go back and just select it. Go to the 3 dots. Rotate, rotate. Okay, this way. Right, this way. And I'm going to go back to the tablet. Okay. And now I'm going to so my vector shape container is going to go over here. I'm going to use the columns to move it to 2 to 3. And I'm going to hide this container. Below it. And my stack is going to go over columns 3 to 5. Okay, and the one that I hid. Okay, so I'm going to go back. You can go back to your desktop, select the container you're looking for, and then open your layers panel. Okay, so I'm going to stick with it and go here. And you see, I can just press display and it's going to show. So I'm going to unstretch it and use the handles and stretch it back again. Okay. And I'm going to switch sides. So my stack is going to go here. I'm going to use the columns again, 2 to 3. And my vector shape is going to go to the right. So it's going to be 3 to 5. Okay. So that's better. Let's preview it. Okay. And again, let's add the sides. Okay. So because I've added padding for this section, now I have padding for both sections. So I'm going to choose the grid on the bottom section and unlock my padding and add 0 here, so it won't be double. And now that looks better. Okay. So let's go on. We are in the tablet, and let's go to the mobile section. And because I copied the other section, I duplicated it. It's really. Where's my vector? I'm just gonna over here. It's this one. Okay. I'm missing my button, so I'm going to go back to this. Okay, check my rows. Let's see. It's under this one. Let's see. Okay, there it is. Okay, and that's it. Now I have these 2 sections that I built, one I built and one I duplicated. And we're good to go. So if you have any questions, you can ask us.
Yeah, will you, some people are talking about math not being their strong suit. So can you just open the grid and explain again what FR is and how you calculated the row height and columns?
Okay. So to select my section grid, I'm going to select my section and do adjust grid again, edit grid. Okay. And I've used the VW, the viewport width measurements for this because I wanted my grid to stay square. Like each cell, I wanted to stay square. So the whole of the grid is 100. And if I have 2, 3, 4, 5 parts of it, then 100 divided by 5, that would be 20. So I've used the VW, the width of the grid as my height. So when you stretch the handles, it will always stay square. Like if my viewport width is smaller, then my height goes smaller as well. And one fraction is, it's a fractional unit. It's one part of the grid. If I change this one to 1 FR, they will all be the same. I hope this answered the question. Yeah? Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So thank you for joining me. And I hope you liked what you saw. And that's all.